year, there was a huge lawsuit that came about against the National Association of Realtors, which is one of the largest trade organizations in the country. Now, the premise of the suit is that the brokerage community, through trade organizations such as NAR, were colluding together to maintain commissions artificially high, and that they weren't letting the consumer know that commissions were in fact negotiable, which they've always been negotiable, may not have been as widespread of information. They won this lawsuit, or I should say the lawsuit settled for several hundreds of millions of dollars. Didn't necessarily win it, but they had a very compelling argument in court. So what that's doing today is that an agreement coming about in the market, which has never been really factored into our marketplace, buyers brokers agreements. So historically, if I were to hire Jill as my broker, and I would say, hey, let's go tour homes, we would never sign anything formally. I can give you a call, I can call my next door neighbor, Mary, as a broker, I can keep going on and work with 5 different people, and I can choose last minute who I want to end up working with. Now, today, once a buyer's agent starts having substantive conversations with a buyer, and to the point where they take them to start touring homes, that's a threshold to tour a home, you have to have this agreement signed in place. And what the agreement states is that if a seller is not willing to pay you a broker's commission for representing the buyer, that the buyer is on the hook for paying you that commission. Where in past, that was never a case, it was a free service. The seller always paid both brokers' commissions. So that's where they essentially decoupling commissions, where the point of it is to make it more negotiable, right? And theoretically, to increase affordability in the housing market, which it won't, to be perfectly honest. It's not going to move the needle $1 in the housing market, because at the end of the day, if the buyer has to pay the 3% and the seller saves at 3%, the buyer's just going to reduce how much they're willing to offer in the house. Or the seller's going to pay both and it's going to be business as usual. Luckily, in most major markets, like our practice, our residential practice as lawyers, is focused on Manhattan and the Hamptons. In 2 challenging markets and 2 of the most complicated housing markets in the country, and also 2 of the most affluent housing markets in the country, I don't think much will change. In the rest of the country, where, again, using your median home price of about $420,000, that 3% is a significant amount of savings, where sellers will say, you know what, I can go put this on Zillow, I can put it on some website, and I'll do the tours, and because there's such a low amount of supply in my neighborhood, I'll just stick to my price and see what happens. Buyers, again, going back to my example of your average American, and this is the most important financial investment they ever make in their lives, buyers are going to go in unrepresented because they can't afford the 3%, right? They can't afford the $12,000 to pay somebody a commission when they can barely put down the $42,000 to buy the home. So buyers are going to go in unrepresented, making the largest financial investment in their lives, which is my concern of this. So now, how does this lawsuit help the consumer in any regard? That I don't agree. That I don't see. I don't see how it helps the consumer. It was a free service, and it was a free service that actually had a lot more value than I think the media and the public gave the brokerage industry credit for. Could it have been revamped where transparency was more transparent in terms of commissions being negotiable, different commission structures? Sure. There's a number of things that they could have done better. Admittedly, they're not completely flawless, but I don't think that this specific suit is going to help the housing market much at all.
It almost sounds akin to